everyone, welcome back to Relax with Animal Facts. I am Stef Wolfe, and today I am going to be learning with you about our furry, scaly, or possibly even slimy friends. And in today's case, I cannot think of an animal that more fits into this slimy category, because we are covering the oh-so-wonderful Moray Eel. This is a very special listener episode dedicated to Tiffany, who wrote in and requested this magnificent creature. So I hope you enjoy your episode, Tiffany, and thank you for taking the time to write in. If you want to learn about a creature that you find interesting and also would like your very own podcast episode, you can do so by sending a message to Relax with Animal Facts on Instagram, or by going to relaxwithanimalfacts.com and clicking on the Animal Request tab, or you can send an email to relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com. And before I say where I got my facts from, if you love the show and want more of it, the Patreon page Relax with Animal Facts has 2 series currently going on right now, and these series include exclusive episodes of mythical creatures and extinct creatures. So if you want to learn about the dodo, the mammoth, or the griffin, you can go to the Patreon that is linked in the description, or just search up patreon.com/relaxwithanimalfacts. All of the resources used in this episode are in the description or the show notes. So if you would like to explore more about the Moray Eel or about any other creature, be sure to explore those to your heart's content. And now we are going to begin to slow down just a little bit. I want all of you to notice maybe where you are carrying some tension. The most commonly held places of tension are in the shoulders or in the head. But for you, it might be in the hands, as it always is for me. It might be in the legs. Who knows? Everyone is truly different in this way. But there is one thing that is for sure, and it is that we do not need all of that tension where we are going. And so I encourage you to, right alongside me, try to relax those parts of your body and simply allow your mind to join me on this journey. Today we are strapping on our scuba gear because we are going to be diving down deep into the tropical waters where the Moray Eel resides. Today we are paddling down deep into the temperate waters, and what we are approaching is nature's elegant maze, and that is the coral reef. And we can see all of the ocean life here carrying on as if we were not even there. The fish swim near and by, but what we are here for is that large head that is popping out of the crevice of this wonderful coral reef. This creature is the Moray Eel. It is part of a family of eels that is distinguished from others by their very large heads, their pharyngeal jaws, and their coloration that can be mesmerizing or hypnotizing. We will get into all of those facts in just a second, but we want to be just a little bit more general here at the top. The Moray eel is any of 80 or more species of eels that comprise the family Murainidae. These eels will be in nearly all tropical and subtropical areas where they will be living among reefs and rocks, which they most gladly proclaim as home. Now, what distinguishes them from afar may be that very large head and maybe those gaping wide jaws, but they also differ in having small, rounded gill openings, and they will in general lack pectoral fins. Pectoral is an antonym, or really the opposite of dorsal. So if a dorsal fin is on the back of a creature, the pectoral fin is on the front of the creature, and this is something that the moray eel generally lacks. The reason we could call this creature a slimy friend of ours is because their skin is very smooth, scaleless, and very thick. But right now, all that we can see is their head outside of this coral reef. Their very large head may be in view, but we have no idea what is going on deeper in that maze of the coral reef. But I have a good feeling that we will find out soon enough. The moray eel has a mouth that is very wide and jaws that are equipped with teeth that are strong and sharp, allowing them to hunt very efficiently, to seize and not only seize but hold on to their prey. Once their prey is in their jaws, it is fairly unlikely that they will be able to get out. Now, while today this moray eel does not even know that we are here, in general, moray eels attack humans only when they are disturbed. But the goal is, of course, to not disturb them at all. So if you were, in real life, to go on some kind of cruise or catamaran and you had an opportunity to scuba dive, getting up very close and personal with the moray eel is not a very good idea. But as we are fluttering about here, they can look maybe even a bit silly. I've read somewhere that the moray eel always looks as if they have just told a joke and are waiting for a reaction. Perhaps they have told some really awful dad joke and their mouths are wide, gaping open, just waiting to see what the response will be. I'm quite sure that many of us have undergone this tragedy, and the moray eel simply replicates the face of that sinister father who has cracked a bad joke. The most deadly form of this joke is when you say that you are hungry, and the response you are given is, "Hi hungry, I'm dad," in which ensues a silence that is all-encompassing, and the eel certainly captures that expression. But moving on, the moray eel certainly looks dangerous because of their constant posture of having these exposed mouth and teeth. But this action is not actually a hostile one. They do this because this is the way that they breathe. Their mouth is gaped to allow this process to happen, and unlike us where we can normally breathe through our nose, the moray eel does not have this option. While at rest, they will constantly open and close their jaws. It is common for many other fish to have these bony gill covers that are on their sides, and by constantly opening and shutting these, water is forced over the internal gill chamber, which allows the creature to breathe. The moray eel, however, has no such thing, so they have to manually and orally pump down water in very large gulps, or not breathe at all, and of course die. So this is not a defensive or aggressive form of posturing as we are here looking at this beautiful creature, but it is simply the mechanism they need to breathe. And now this moray eel is, for a moment, coming out of its crevice. It is likely going to look for a different spot in the coral to call home, but as they are coming out of this hole, you'll notice that for some seconds it seems as though there is a trick going on. There is more and more eel than perhaps you would think. This particular moray eel is the Thursoidea macrurus, as we are today swimming in the Pacific Ocean, and this creature is known to grow about 3.5 meters. That's about 11.5 feet long. In general, the moray eel will not exceed a length of about 5 feet or 1.5 meters, but today we are looking at a true gargantuan of the moray eel. So this eel coming out of this coral crevice seems to be pouring out like liquid. There is so much of this eel that is hidden beneath the surface. The biggest morays can weigh more than 66 pounds, that being more than 30 kilos. And now that this moray is out in the open, we can get a much better look at this mesmerizing pattern. If you watch any documentaries that sport the moray eel, you are sure to be shown a variety of patterns and have a greater grasp of the sheer size of this eel. There are spotted morays, green, zebra, honeycomb, snowflake, and many other patterns and colors that the moray eel sports. The green moray eel, which has the scientific name Gymnothorax funebris, is actually blue, but it has a coating that is this slimy yellow substance that makes them appear green. So this is how the blue moray eel becomes the green moray eel, simply through this slimy yellow coating. Either way, the green moray eel is seen most commonly in that green color, and so I have no problem with this distinction. Morays will generally come out at night to feed, but they will prefer those small spaces and hiding places in rocks and caves during the day. And when they do feed, they will eat all sorts of fish, cephalopods, and crustaceans. They do have to be careful because they are not the apex predators of the area and will sometimes be targeted by barracudas, sharks, sea snakes, and groupers. All of these predators are fairly large, which makes the hiding in the coral reefs a perfect solution for this agile and slippery creature. And to eat these fish and crustaceans and cephalopods, they will use something that is very unique to them, and that is their pharyngeal jaws. They have a second set of teeth in the back of their throat that can come forward when it comes to grasping prey. So they have not just one set, but two sets of teeth. So this second set of teeth, this second jaw, will be used like a ballistic weapon, thrashing out quickly to catch their prey. And these are housed in the eel's throat, ready to come out whenever prey comes near. Now the teeth that we are seeing on this moray is curved and gives them that really ideal way of snagging up fish and ensuring that they don't escape. But there are a few varieties, like the zebra moray, for example, that will prefer to dine on crabs, mollusks, clams, and sea urchins. And of course, many of these are not exactly soft. All morays seem to have very strong jaws, but certain morays will have these specialized teeth that are more blunt than some of the other species, especially the one that we are covering. Today, morays are eaten in some of the areas of the world. The Muraina helena, which is found in the Mediterranean, was a delicacy of the ancient Romans, but it is important to note that they can oftentimes be toxic. The reason this is the case is because of a mechanism known as bioaccumulation. Over time, predators, they tend to accumulate the toxins from the foods that they ingest. There can be fish, for example, that are entirely herbivorous in their diet, meaning they eat no other fish or insects. But these strictly herbivorous fish can accumulate toxins from the algae that they eat. And as these toxins move up the food chain, for example, if a herbivorous fish is full of certain toxins from algae and then is eaten by a bigger fish, and then that fish is eaten by a larger fish, the concentration of the toxicity increases each time. In fact, there is a documented case in which one moray eel poisoned nearly 60 people who had a piece. So while the ancient Romans seemed to cultivate these moray eels as a delicacy, it is mostly best to stay away. Moray eels in general tend to enjoy their alone time. They don't tend to share their space very well and will even attack members of the same species if provoked. But there are times in which there is an amazing interaction between the moray eel and another fish. That other fish is a grouper. Sometimes giant morays will join forces with another predator, and oftentimes it is with that specific grouper fish. The grouper will invite this moray out onto their special planned hunting trip. It seems as though the way they come to this agreement is through a series of head shakes being initiated by the grouper. Their hunting pattern will be one in which they get into a formation. The grouper will take the high ground with the moray staying pretty low and near those craggy reefs to be able to maneuver through if the prey gets away from the grouper. So with the grouper at the top and the moray eel lower down, it makes it tremendously difficult for these smaller fish to hide. It is beneficial because at least one of them will get a meal. This is a kind of symbiotic relationship. From the root words that we have learned already on the show, maybe we could break that down. That root word sym, sim, is a prefix that is usually attached to things that are done in the same way, are done in unison or together. And biotic comes from bios, which means life. So we see this cooperation happening between living species. And what makes symbiotic relationships so great in nature is that they benefit both of the creatures. This is in stark contrast to a different sort of relationship that is known as parasitic. This is where one creature will reap benefits at the other's expense. But in the case of the grouper and the giant moray, they have no problem joining forces, and all it takes is a simple few head shakes and the hunt is on. Now we are going to go to the last few facts of the episode, which regard the name Moray Eel. Where does it come from, or what does it mean? We're first going to break down that word eel. It is a word that is not specific to the moray eel. There are many other species, and so I think it is a good one to cover. The difficulty here with this word is that after going through transformations of Proto-Germanic, Old Frisian, Middle Dutch, Old Saxon, all the way back to Old Norse, we end up hitting a dead end. This word is of an entirely unknown origin as of today, but what we do know is that it was used figuratively for slipperiness from at least the 1520s. Language can be just as slippery as the word eel implies. Language goes through natural progressions, and sometimes there is not enough extant evidence to be able to piece all of those transformations together, and in the case of the name eel, we have no idea. And then we go to the word moray. Moray refers to a tropical eel-like fish from as early as the 1620s. If we remember from an earlier fact, we know that the ancient Romans ate the moray eel, and so it would make sense if they had some sort of word for it, and they most certainly did. It comes from a Latin word, murina, which means sea eel or lamprey, and that links back to a Greek word, smirina or smuros, that means sea eel. So the moray is a lot easier for us to track, because of its prevalence in ancient history, especially with the Goliath civilizations of the Greeks and the Romans. Now let us move on to the review portion of the episode. This is where I read a review from one of you very special listeners out there, and in today's case, we are reading one from Froggy McGee, who has a great name and is writing all the way from the United States of America. And Froggy writes, Stef Wolfe has an incredibly soothing voice and speech pattern. I dare anyone to stay awake while listening to this. The material is intriguing and makes one want to keep listening, but Mr. Wolfe exudes a level of serenity which cannot be resisted. Thank you, Froggy, for the very kind and for the very well-crafted review. I am so glad, Froggy, that you enjoy the show and are so confident in its ability to put people to sleep that you not only use some very kind words to describe the show, but even provoke and dare anyone to even try to stay awake during it. Now, I am aware of many of you who decide not to sleep, but rather, so I've been told, prefer to stay wide-eyed awake during the whole thing. All I have to say is that I am so grateful that I host a show in which, whether I am making people fall asleep or to be wide awake, that they are both a good thing. Normally, if somebody's podcast was putting you to sleep, that would be a problem, but I do not have to worry about that. If you want to leave a review like Froggy did, I absolutely encourage you to do so. If the show has helped you and you want to help it grow with feedback and with reviews, your generosity does not go on unnoticed. In fact, we just passed 300 reviews worldwide. I cannot tell all of you how much your reviews have helped mold, shape, and grow the show. The very fact that we changed the format, for example, was because of reviews that were very critical and very helpfully critical. And so that is why feedback from you guys is so important to me. If you wish to continue maybe in these very waters to see a creature that we don't see anymore, that being the megalodon, the Patreon page Relax with Animal Facts has a bunch of exclusive episodes that are only available to patrons, including episodes of an extinct animal miniseries, mythical creatures such as the griffin and maybe even the unicorn. You can get access to all of these while supporting the show with any amount, and for all of your support, I am very grateful. Again, if you would like to send a request into the show or just to reach out to say how much you like the show or don't like it, you can send a message to Relax with Animal Facts on Instagram. You can submit through the relaxwithanimalfacts.com website by clicking on the Animal Request tab, and you can always send an email directly to relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com. What a wonderful time it has been learning about the Moray Eel with you. I have to say that my respect for this creature has only increased all the more. It is possible that you had not heard of the Moray Eel before this episode, but I hope it prompts you to learn more and to really dive deep into maybe a lot of other sea creatures that are lurking around and just awaiting your discovery. I hope that you will all join me on the next podcast episode with the next animal. Take care.